All right, so thank you to everyone who's joining us today. This is the fifth in a 8-part series webinar called Setting the Stage for Social Media. So just real quick, what exactly is social media? So social media is a way for people to connect and interact online. It's really been around since the dawn of the World Wide Web, but in the last 10 years, we've seen a huge surge in both the number and the popularity of social media sites. It's called social media because users interact with and around and in social contexts in which they can include conversations, commentary, and other user-generated annotations and engagement. Publishing content has really become exponentially simpler than it was a few years ago, which has helped skyrocket the use of social media. Non-technical web users are now able to really easily generate content and on a rapid number of growing platforms. So for businesses, the shift into web consumerism and accompanying the rise of social media brings both the opportunity and a responsibility. The sheer amount of data that consumers are making available now through social media has a lot of web marketers like myself smiling. Just as your consumers' behaviors have shifted, so have expectations for yours. Whether your business is listening and engaging or not, consumers are having conversations online that are really relevant to your products and operations. So looking at social media, is this just a fad or is this something that's going to be around a while? So over the last several years, there have been an explosion in growth of popular social media platforms. And the big ones I'm sure all of you have heard of are Facebook, Twitter, Google+, LinkedIn, YouTube, Pinterest, and many others. It's safe to say that the era of social media is really just getting started. And the need for social media in your business is only going to become stronger over time. The whole world has really seen the impact of the expansion and adoption of these social media services, and the rising stats of users on them really speak for themselves. Here's some great information that, just letting somebody in, that I found online that really helps illustrate the popularity of social media today. So looking at the number of users, if Facebook were a country, it would be the world's third largest after China and India, with about 3 times the size of the US population. 1 in 5 adults use Twitter every single day. And 75% of brand likes actually come from the advertisements that people run on social media. Facebook has over 1.19 billion active users monthly. 72% of online adults actually use some form of a social networking site. So when you think about your customers, there's probably a lot of them that are in this space. 9 billion photos are uploaded to Facebook every month. 74% of smartphone owners use their phone for real-time specific information. So when they're searching for a location of a business or a product, they're often using their phone. 89% of 18 to 29-year-olds are on some kind of social network. Twitter is adding 3,000 users per day. Women 18 to 29 are considered really kind of that sweet spot, that power user on the web. That's most of the demographic that's online. YouTube reaches more than US adults ages 18 to 34 than any cable network. So looking at old forms of advertising on TV networks is really changing. 92% of consumers trust peer recommendations. So you probably see this a lot if you're online, but people are often asking a friend to recommend a product, a service, or a doctor or dentist. You see that all the time. So that's a great spot to be playing in. And then with LinkedIn, they've seen 105% growth between 2011 and 13. That's a little bit older stat. Okay, so why does my company need social media. So whether you're running a small local operation or heading a global enterprise, the statistics we just looked at really make this clear. Your customers are definitely online. They're interacting with social channels and other brands to get their information, to get their entertainment. And if your company's not around to answer some of those questions, more than likely a competitor will. There's a lot of opportunities to add value and making that connection to really help build a person's relationship with your company or your brand. And these relationships create the foundation for what eventually will become one of your greatest marketing assets, and that's consumer advocacy. So in marketing, something we haven't talked about yet is consumer advocacy. So it's really the nirvana of social media. And it's through advocacy that your efforts start to truly scale and grow. It shows that your brand is doing an amazing job and that your customers are shouting about it from the rooftops. They're sharing their opinions and experiences on their networks. And that sharing is really the best kind of marketing your brand can ask for, because it's not you telling them that your product is great. It's your customers telling all of their friends and their communities that your product or service is great. So the transition from a passive web, the way web used to be, to this really interactive environment has brought with it many challenges affecting how individuals connect with each other, but also how a business could potentially operate. At this stage in the game, it's fair to say that a web presence is critical to the success of a business. You can't get ahead if you're ignoring your customers' online conversations or opting to look the other way. So we'll talk a little bit about the integration of social media in your overall campaign. So social media is not something that you really want to just tack on to the rest of your marketing planning, although a lot of people tend to do this. It really needs to be a fully integral part of your marketing mix. And to do so, you can create a comprehensive and scalable experience for your customers. So think of this as a means to an end, not the end itself. But a lot of people have a lot of fear around how to go about doing this, but it really isn't as hard as we make it out to be. And one way to do this is to make sure that you integrate your social media into your marketing efforts as soon as possible to help amplify and solidify your network, rather than waiting till the end of a planning cycle to explore social media options. If a social presence is clear from the start, your branding will benefit from additional consumer touch points, and PR will really see a shift in the lift in impressions and the reach, and customer service can proactively listen and activate when necessary. So as you can see, a social presence can have a far-reaching impact on your organization when it's executed in an authentic and thoughtful manner, making social engagement a core part of your operations rather than something that's an afterthought. You'll have a much better shot of leveraging the power of it. So moving from like to love to defend. So there's a lot of different conversations you can have online with folks. So the feelings of any community member towards your brand can range from resentment to admiration and beyond. One thing that I know a lot of businesses find challenging about social media is that it is kind of an open forum. So if somebody does have an issue with your product or your service, sometimes they use that as a way to amplify their voice. So it is something that does need to be cautiously watched so that you can address some of those issues. So the first step is in this whole process, though, is just getting people to like you, whether on Facebook or by word of mouth or however you get them there. The people who you are consistently having their expectations met, you want those folks to like you. This typically feels transactional with a low level of engagement, although there's certainly nothing wrong with that. So basically, you just want them to like your page first. And then, like any relationship, forming bonds that take you to that next level highly depends on the needs of both your brand and the individuals that you are interacting with. So you want to form these bonds on positive experiences you have together that benefit both of you, even though these experiences bring delight and build your brand voice. Even better if they do help you build your brand voice. So for example, when Kotex, we probably all know that brand, very first started their Pinterest account, one of the first things they did when they didn't have many followers or people attached to them, they selected 50 female users and actually sent them care packages that were really crafted based on what they saw on their Pinterest boards. And so these women were really excited and happy. But a byproduct of that is that they all shared what Kotex did on all of their social networks and really created a lot of warm feelings toward that brand, and created a bit of viral marketing at the same time. So it's not all just about marketing. The community engagement that social media affords is beneficial to nearly every part of your organization. So when we think of our local winemakers, that really means from the winemaker to the picker of grapes to the lady in the shop pouring the wine. And as an added bonus, more colleagues that get involved in some of your social media work, the more it can lighten your load. So to get started, here's a few areas that see the most obvious value. So content creation. By using your search traffic data on site engagements and social listening efforts, your social media presence can help you determine what people are looking for and then create content that fulfills their needs. Not to mention you're giving a wonderful way to share content once it's available. So topics for content will likely fall into 3 different buckets here. So the first type of content you'd want to generate potentially is the learn and improve. So this type of content is designed to optimize your users' tasks or workflow. If you're attempting to make their lives better or more fully using your product or feature, or even by offering some kind of assistance. The main goal of this type of content is to build authority, to drive connections, and to increase engagement. The next type of content could be explore and discover. So customers are wanting to get creative and find new ways to use your product, or are looking for this type of content. For this group, building relationships is going to be paramount, and these relationships will really help breed ideation and community. Another type of content block could be question and answer. So these types serve to meet customer support needs. So perhaps something has gone wrong and a customer seeks a solution. You can arrange from a detailed forum thread on resolving a technical issue to a simple question and answer on how to make a product return. Your main goal is to drive answers. And a great thing to do is to not try to develop all this on the fly, is to look at a calendar for several months in advance and scope out what some of your content will be going forward, so that you can map out and actually pre-post a lot of this information online. It's also great to have a lot of this type of information gathered when you do have a lull in other social media posts, that you can always have content ready to be able to put in front of people. So what types of content might you want to share? A common and understandable make that a lot of people make as they're diving into social media is to limit their content to only promotional updates. So you want to consider broadening your scope a little bit, and this will make your content a lot more appealing and lessen the burden of creation. So I've definitely seen on some social channels that the only thing you see is a product and a discount price or a BOGO sale, and it's just, you see nothing but pictures of products and sales. So you definitely can do that in your social media, and you should, but there'll be a few other ideas here for actually putting other content together. So some types of options for updates you might want to include could be what's called adjacent content. So it's pretty safe bet that somebody who's following you is interested in the types of things you offer. So it's an even safer bet to say that their interests don't stop there. So sharing content that's relevant to your business or something involving common interests of your audience. So this could be, if your product or business stands for sustainability or is environmentally conscious. You can also look for other content around those topics that you can also share on your page that isn't necessarily directly related to your business. Tips and tricks are great. This can add value to the conversation by sharing content that will make your consumers' lives better. And you can get bonus points for tips and tricks that help them actually make their lives better with your products and services. So you can find creative ways to do that. Also non-promotional company information. So if your company does amazing volunteer work in the community, don't be shy to share it. If there's a really impressive showing at the company Halloween party, people dressed up that day, it's always fun to show real people doing the real work behind your business as well. And jokes, this can be a little bit of a tricky one. It's more of a branding question to use jokes or humorous language. First of all, it's really good to know what your brand is and what your personality for your brand embodies. And if humor really isn't a part of that overall brand, you probably want to avoid this. But if it is, or if you have a lighthearted nature to your business, really carefully selected and tasteful humor can also really add a human element to your social media profiles. So in talking a little bit about how to share and publish your content. So frequency of updates. So often we get asked, how often do I need to update my page or my account? This is a really common question. And unfortunately, there's no really right or wrong answer there. There's no best practice that's set in stone. A lot of it really just depends on your particular audience, their appetite, and what exactly you're saying to them. There's been a lot of research done on this topic, and I can post some links below the video on the AGA website. But this can act as a little bit of a general guideline for your efforts, but with most things, it's best to test and see what's working for you and your audience, and also the particular platform that you're using. So a universal fact is that social media updates don't last long. We know that. The half-life of a tweet, for example, is only about 18 minutes for most users. This number doesn't mean to suggest you should post that often, but rather understand that sending an update doesn't mean that it will be visible for an extended period of time. Users really move on to more recent items in their news feeds quite quickly. The takeaway here is to keep an eye on how long your users are engaging and sharing something. And more than anything, it's indicative of the quality of your content. So if you are able to post something that gets a lot of interaction, likes, comments, shares, then actually the life of that post is going to be actually quite longer than you might have anticipated. And that's the type of content and post that you really want to aim for. So consistent branding and voice. So one thing you definitely want to ask as you start setting up your social media world is, what is our brand voice and personality? What do we stand for and what do we represent? What is our value proposition and differentiating factors? What are our defined visual branding elements? So logos, colors, fonts, etc. You don't necessarily get to control some of that in some of these social media environments, but anytime you are posting a graphic or something from your company, it should always adhere to your guidelines and your brand. So some of these questions, if you don't know the answers first, your social media presence can veer toward one of two extremes. Either your communication will come off a bit stiff and corporate, and the people you're engaging with will feel like they're dealing with a robot, or your social poster will use his or her own voice or communications, and then this can lead to a bit of an inconsistency or even an authentic experience with your brand. So exactly what you're posting and who is definitely an important thing. So providing a really cohesive branded consumer experience that is completely agnostic of site, network, or location will serve to galvanize your community's comprehension of and memory of, and hopefully preference for your brand. Okay, so how to earn familiarity, trust, and likability in your social media pages. So one of the first things is show up. Simple as that. Just being present is the first step. It gives people a reason to invest in the relationship. A lot of people will start social media pages and never update them, or update them maybe once a month. It's really not enough if you want to engage in this space. So it does take a really dedicated effort for being there and listening to those conversations. Another tip is really just to be human, be kind, be real, be funny, be respectful, be empathetic. It's a social place, it's an entertainment place. People are communicating with other people. So your brand should do that as well. Be all of the things you would expect someone to be towards you as well in every interaction. No one can easily relate to a bland personality. Add value. So adding value will help you be seen as helpful and authoritative, and ultimately make you want to be part of the community that you're interacting with. You can do this by offering assistance, answering questions, and going out of your way potentially to make someone's day brighter. Practicing etiquette. So things like not spamming hashtags, overusing them, basically. Brands have gotten in trouble for this in the past, and it can show up distastefully if you overuse those. It's okay to be a little bit off topic now and then. Closely related to being human, it's okay to go a little out of bounds. If every post was really just about marketing, people become tired of your message. So going off a little bit, celebrating something simple like holidays or world events, or just something beautiful in the day is a great way to kind of accomplish that. So now we'll take a look at kind of each one of the platforms without taking a real deep dive into each one. I think most people are pretty familiar with the nuts and bolts of just how to post and where things are. But we'll take a look a little bit about people that are using Facebook. So since its inception, Facebook has become an integral component of people's online social presence. For many, Facebook is actually the only online network that they participate in. This is especially true for folks in higher age demographics. And although the level of engagement kind of varies a bit across the platform spectrum, most of those that check in with the network periodically throughout the week, to actually some users that are really compulsively active. The core driving force to participation is connection. So connecting with colleagues, with friends old and new, with alumni networks, and for an increasing percentage of users, even professional connections. We're seeing a lot more of that happen on Facebook. The network itself has transformed into one of the most highly customizable privacy and visibility settings. So you have a lot of restrictions, and you have a lot of decisions of who you want to engage with. So this can actually be a little more challenging for a business, because you have to really have those people come to you and engage with you first. Users can dial down their visibility to the point where they're nearly invisible on the platform if they want to be. Folks can choose which posts or updates are visible to them and when. Conversely, those users also have chosen a much more all-in approach, where they can leave everything completely public if they want to, from the images they're tagged in to their active stream on Spotify. So there's a big range. Features go beyond the individual's user page to brand pages. Facebook has events, it has groups, it has a messaging service, it has online marketplace now. So it's really grown beyond just a typical news feed. And that's really what's keeping users active and engaged. I did watch a documentary recently, which I do recommend to everyone, just from a psychology and understanding of social media standpoint, called The Social Dilemma. It's on Netflix, and it really does a deep dive into the psychology of how social media platforms such as this work, and how it performs in our brains. So it's not necessarily bringing it in the best light, but it does show it does show a lot of good information of how people think and use, and you can integrate that with some of your business strategies. So a few strategies and tactics for success when it comes to Facebook. So content, everything you post on Facebook is really considered content. We know from the newsfeed algorithm how many users interact with that content, and that's important. Consider every piece of content you post as an opportunity for increased and specific engagement. But you can also feel free to have a little fun on Facebook as well. Images are incredibly effective on Facebook. Posts with videos, or I'm sorry, posts with photos, but also videos, get on an average of 39% more engagement than posts without. Post timing. So also related to the ingredients of your content is when and how you post. So be sure you're tracking what time of day your users are most active. Focusing on your engagements during these times will help you grow your community. Also be sure to pay attention to things like sentence structure, phrasing, and the types of posts that are particularly engaging to your audience. Many Facebook users check the site on their lunch breaks or after dinner potentially. And while the latter is outside the normal business hours, it's worth testing to see if that's a time when your audience is looking for more content. You don't necessarily have to be sitting at the computer either posting at those times of days. You can use Facebook's publishing tools to actually pre-schedule posts to drop at a very specific time and day. And then you can go back in anytime you want and look at the analytics for every single post that you post as well. So you can see how many people have interacted with that particular post. And that will definitely help you in terms of posting future content. So a little bit about moderation when it comes to Facebook. So brands have increasing levels of responsibility for user-generated content posted on their walls or in their comments. So you'll want to proactively think through your stance on appropriate content on your Facebook page. And a best practice would be to make this stance publicly available. It really depends on the nature of your product or service, but if sometimes conversations can get heated, you can actually hide or take down posts. It's a really tricky area. If you do that too often, it'll be considered a little bit of censorship on your page. So sometimes really setting that stage and that voice ahead of time, and also commenting on topics before they get too out of hand potentially can help not dilute your page with some of that type of user behavior. Engagement. Because we are building something rooted in relationships, you'll want to take full advantage by joining the conversation with your customers. They want to interact with your brand and are going out of their way to do so. So it's a little bit of a, depending on how big your social media presence comes as well. If you're commenting directly back to a user, there's a little bit of celebrity or notoriety feeling with that. So always being a voice and being there for them is a really positive reinforcement. Community, make sure your audience's experience on Facebook about their experience and their connections rather than your conversion rate. So you really, again, not just thinking about posting products and making sales, it's really about creating a community. Concentrate on them and you'll just sort of naturally succeed more that way. Your audience will turn into a community that thrives and grows and supports one another. You often see, people that don't know each other at all giving resources or commenting back and forth about different tips or other products that have worked for them as well. And that's really where the magic happens. User flow. While the page environment Facebook gives brands is mostly set in terms of how it looks, you want to make sure you're directing your users where you want them to go. So if I'm a user looking for support or help, make that clear where I need to go. Just as you are designing landing pages for your website, consider these goals also with your Facebook page. And Facebook does allow you some limited gadgets near the top of your page where you can change the titles of certain sections. You can also add a button near the top, whether it's a sign up or shop now. So making sure that all of those features are really dialed in are important. And if you are posting content regularly to Facebook, especially if it's content or related products or other information that are on your website, always link back to your website so that you can get that click, and it'll also help with your SEO presence as well to always include that link back. All right, so I'll go a little bit through a few of the other major search engine social channels. Twitter. So Twitter has really become a tool for everything from facilitating the collapse of governments, as we've seen, to showing off a newborn. Consumers use the service to share and find content. For many, Twitter's really become a replacement for their RSS subscriptions and their traditional news media. So Twitter really is king in terms of news. As I'm sure you've seen, it's really a lot less weighted on imagery. It's a lot of text and links back to other sources. Due to its mostly public nature, Twitter's most powerful use is really connecting people and quickly. The platform allows complete strangers to become together over common interests and ideas and to participate in conversations that range from relatively mundane to very important. The @ symbol, which you've probably seen a lot if you're a Twitter user, on replies. So you can actually start a tweet with @ username. So basically you're talking to a particular person. And only people who are following both you and that person will see the tweet. But actually, if you want more people to see it, you just put a period or other marker in front of the username as well. Or you can rephrase your sentence and actually get a bigger audience. So there's a few little Twitter tricks that you can use. Hashtags. So I assume today most people have come across that word and know what it means, but basically it's pound with some kind of phrase and or word. And what that does is it becomes a hyperlink. And this works both Twitter and Facebook. So if you click on that link, it's going to lead you to show you everything else that has been posted recently that's in that hashtag. So essentially it's a search mechanism. So depending on your relevancy to a particular hashtag, you can use that a bit as a marketing vehicle as well. So you can organically, in a way, expose yourself to a much wider audience. Many people follow conversations using hashtags that really wouldn't otherwise know you existed. So hashtags are meant to be a shortcut to explain what your tweet contains or to show part of a conversation or event. If your brand's jumping into a particular hashtag, meaning you created one yourself as a business, you should make sure that you're contributing value to the conversation and not just promoting the business. It has a lot more likelihood of being successful that way. So a little more about Twitter, the retweet. There are two ways to retweet manually through Twitter's native RT function. RT is a great way to boost your community members' content, make them feel good, or say you're awesome. If you retweet their message, especially if it references your brand. If there's a link you want to track or a grammar or spelling issues you want to fix before doing that, you can also edit the tweet and post it at the username is another way to handle that. Scheduling updates, a variety of tools like Facebook also help you schedule out tweets. Scheduling updates is the community manager, whoever's updating your page's best friend, so you don't have to be there at that perfect moment. You can create the tweet, set the time and date, select the account you want it to come from, and schedule it. Scheduling also allows you to publish content when your community is most active. Okay, so just a little bit about YouTube. YouTube sees now over 1 billion unique visits each month, and that's just continuing to grow, especially in our younger demographics. Content is being uploaded and shared through YouTube at just record rates. Users now can follow channels, which they've allowed it to become a lot more sophisticated in their design and function. You can upload your own content and comment on videos, discuss videos, and follow other users' content all through the channel. With the ability to link or embed videos, YouTube has become the primary source for video entertainment for users all across the web. And its ability to monetize through ads, both for itself and others, adds a whole nother layer of financial sustainability. In subsequent webinars, we'll be talking more about online ads, but this is definitely an interesting opportunity that's rising. Engagement. So the comments on the YouTube are famous for being a little bit of a wasteland. Most of them are not always very valid comments compared to other social spaces. Some brands have even shut off their comments and for good reason. If you opt to leave them on just to see what kind of engagement you get, what is not recommended, though, is to leave them on and ignore them. So it does take some moderation, but you can see powerful results by choosing to engage in your audience, but you can also choose other social platforms to spend more time in that necessarily than on YouTube. So a little bit about content strategy for YouTube. Some of the best content you see on YouTube right now in terms of helping a business would be help content and other how-tos. I don't know how many times people like ourselves will Google a YouTube video to fix something small in the house or to learn about a craft project or something like that. That's really where they've risen these days. For some products, tutorials and how-tos are becoming really valuable. It helps your audience potentially to better use your particular product, including ideas about your product in novel ways. It can help them learn how to do things that might not be directly related to your product, but are highly relevant to their interest. So that's sort of that adjacent content concept as well. So for example, a nail polish brand may occasionally highlight how-tos for a special hair event. This is very relevant to their audience, but not directly related to their product. So this is a tactic to use to think more horizontally about your product and your brand and your content online. Exclusive content. So this can take the form of early access for new product previews. If you've done a little video about that, you can give exclusive access to that. Special channel-specific promotional deals, or even some insider company news or video. Giving these limited audience exclusive access to this type of content can make them feel honored and in the know. Perhaps you do an email blast with a link to the video. Also creating channel-specific content will give each individual a reason to follow more than one channel, increasing the depth of the relationship beyond just whatever channel they first engage with you on. You can also incentivize participation. So if your community creates content and shares it across their networks, then you can curate based on a hashtag or a central repository, or find some other way to draw their attention and connect the user stories. This activity can also drive awareness of your presence and help engage the audience while cutting down the amount of time and work required of you. So it has multiple uses. The next channel would be Instagram. So Instagram, which is now owned by Facebook, which actually makes advertising a lot easier for advertisers because they're adjoined in that way. It's really known for creating and sharing posts and really short videos. TikTok, I'm not going to talk about today, but that's the other rising star in terms of short video social channels. With over 150 million active users, the network is incredibly active and vibrant. Has over 55 million images uploaded every day. Users can subscribe to pages curated either by their friends or by different brands. using the Explore function, they can also view popular videos and pictures across the network. The app has a really lightweight editing feature, allowing users to creatively alter and filter their images. The videos have a maximum length of 15 seconds. So they're really short and creative, but they can be really impactful as well. And Instagram is definitely hitting that little bit younger audience, but not extremely younger. There's still a lot of 30s on Instagram, but it's become more of the preference for the younger folks over Facebook in a lot of ways. Instagram also allows to share videos and pictures through other networks, so you can actually cross-share over to Facebook, Twitter, and a number of other Flickr, and even through email with their share feature. Yeah, so that's the end of what I had to chat about today. I'll turn it over to Alana to give us a little background and help from the library, and then I'll take it back for any questions you might have as well.
Hey everybody. So there's a few things that I'll share with you once I get to share my screen.
Stop share. Let's see if I can get that to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so as always, I'm happy to help anybody find information one-to-one. We can have a Zoom meeting and I can show you exactly how to find things in case this goes a little bit fast. But let's go ahead and just one really quick reminder about where to find business information. So you'll go under research, go under business and investment, then find all this information. So that is me and my contact information. Just go to jcls.org to find all of that. So I wanted to highlight also some of the books that we have that will accompany the information that Laurel shared with us today. So one of those books is Social Media Marketing. So it says 2019, the information lasts for 2 to 3 years. So we will be getting new editions of things in fairly shortly. And the information is still valid right now, though again, we'll need to update. And we have a database that's called Canopy. So as well as Udemy, Canopy can help you find tutorials on things that you may be seeking information on how to do. So this is part 5. So you can see there are 5 separate parts of digital marketing and social media if you wanted to dive deeper. And here is kind of a more social discussion type book on social media and how it works. So it's not necessarily business oriented, it's more a discussion on what you'll find in social media and how people tend to use it. So that can be a good bit of background. And the content marketing handbook. So this can be a great guide if you are looking for how to build your writing or build your going live and all of that. What information do you fill that with and how do you really talk to people in those different forums? Digital marketing analytics. So a lot of folks will be curious about how do you use the analytics that are given to you through social media marketing? And what does it mean if my numbers are in such and such phase? Does that mean I'm doing well or poorly? Not necessarily. The more you know, the stronger you are. And this is my excited librarian nerd book. So theories of information behavior. This is based on sociology. A lot of librarianship is based on sociology. So the study of human behavior. How do people behave around information? How do they seek it? And So this is going to give you some insight to that. And if you are looking for someone to give you a little bit of a helping hand with how to use social media and how to use various platforms, our digital services team is amazing. So we've got Laura Irwin, Jacob Spillman, Nicole Vuksavic, Leah Pastizo, and Eric Malinsky. And each of those people are available to make an appointment to receive help from. And again, Udemy does have assistance, and there was mentioned earlier in the program today, LinkedIn. So if you wanted to learn more about LinkedIn, which is primarily focused on business to business sales, you can learn a bit about that and how to engage people. So with all of that, I'm really grateful for your time, and we'll go ahead and stop sharing.
Thanks, Alana. Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask related to this topic today? Nope. Okay. Well, thanks so much, everybody, for listening, and hopefully we'll see you back again next Tuesday for our next webinar. I will send out the link probably the day of. We seem to have good turnout doing that, so hope to see you all next week. Thank you.
Thank you.